What's up, my friends? I want to welcome Adrian Lozano. We're going to have a conversation here about the current affairs in the world and, just how we can really make the most of this time and how we can learn to really manifest a reality that's more aligned with our vision. So, Adrian, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, brother, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing a lot. Thank you for that beautiful meditation today. It kept me really grounded this whole morning, and it kind of shot me to like a trajectory that was like just sense of stillness. So thank you very much for that meditation. That was really much appreciated.
Well, thank you for getting up early. It was, for anyone listening, we did a guided meditation at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and Adrian's on the West Coast. So he was up at 6 a.m. to join in for that. So I appreciate you being there, man. And let's dive right in. So obviously, as we're recording this, it's November 11th, 2020. So there's a lot that's been going on in the world, basically since March, and we could argue before that as well. Um, but with the current state of affairs with the election, as we were talking before we hopped on here, is just there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of feelings of, helplessness going on right now. So I'd love to hear what you've been doing to really keep yourself grounded and, really act from inside rather than letting the outside dictate your lifestyle.
Yeah, I would say like it hasn't been it's been like an up and down with this. So a little bit by myself. I do tend to get a lot of anxiety. So for me, it's very important to know how to ground myself and know what my triggers are and what not to do and what to do. And I've learned that from trial and error. And like I would say in the beginning of all of this, I was in fight or flight mode when COVID started, like because it's something that was new and just like I was always watching the news and like staying stuck to that and in state of fear. And it was like that for a couple of weeks and like I wasn't sleeping correctly. It just like kind of threw me out of whack. So then I realized like what kept me grounded was my practices of like yoga, meditation, gratitude is a big one too. Being grateful for all that we have and even when the world's going wrong, just staying grounded to that. And so that kind of, I guess, formed how important all that is for me. It kind of like embedded it in my mind. So, throughout this whole time, I've kind of been growing more and like using this time for self-reflection, personal development, growth, healing, all that type of stuff that has really allowed me to manifest into this person that I am now, like this present version of myself where the elections didn't really like, or all of that didn't really do anything to me. Like it was like a little bit triggering, but I was able to catch that. I'm like, okay, I'm getting too much into the news now. Now I can't control any of it. And that's the biggest thing that I realized is that I cannot control anything outside of my own thoughts, feelings, or emotions. That is the only thing I have power of. I'm powerless over what goes on in the world and everything and what goes on with anyone else other than myself. So like I really had to realize that okay, like, I can't control that and my thoughts, feelings, and reactions. So then I like during all this, I kind of turn off the news, meditated, yoga, all journaling, and all that really helped me not be in a fight or flight mode. Which I can say that for a lot of people I talked to, they were in a anxious, stressed, all this. It makes sense. Like it was a very stressful time and very a lot of emotions were high and all that. So, but that was where I came back to my gratitude and I was like, well, I'm so grateful because I have X, Y, and Z, and I'm not like I used to be, you know, before where yeah, I probably would be like stuck on it. And
Mm,
that was the main thing. It's just like finding stillness, being present, and allowing the breath to be your anchor was like my biggest thing.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, kind of as I was receiving that message, the big thing that I took away from that is that you're looking at the glass half full, not the glass half empty. And I think that that's really, at the end of the day, all we really can do, or I would say the only thing that's really worthwhile doing. If we spend all this time looking at the glass half empty, you can use that two ways. We can use it as a state of lack and scarcity, or we can look at it as motivation. And I was talking with our mutual friend, Zach Barney, this morning after the meditation. We were just talking about, the idea that in, the mindful culture, we talk about how being present is everything, but we can use the tools of the past as learning experiences and as ways to, improve ourselves moving forward. And we can look to the future to create and visualize a better future. It's more when we're looking at the past and getting caught up on it and dwelling on it and saying, beating ourselves up, or looking at the future and having fear, that that's where, you know, we really need to find the balance of all that. And so I love the practices that you discussed there, you know, gratitude, breathing, meditation, all things that are helping you to be grounded. And because at the end of the day, you know, no matter who wins the election, it doesn't, you know, it matters, but it doesn't really matter all that much, in a sense that we can't give all of our power to these individuals, because if we do, then they have power over us. So by us, you know, really taking control and responsibility, I think that's a big piece that, you know, people are kind of foregoing their own personal responsibility for the sake of handing it over to a public official. And that's, you know, not, in my opinion, not the best way to live. Is, you know, I'd rather be responsible for my own actions, you know, good and bad. So with that being said, you know, I've been doing a lot of walking, a lot of reflection as well, and really diving into my own belief system. Like, what do I believe? Because there's a lot of, you know, fake news out there. There's a lot of theories out there, a lot of, you know, partial truths, full truths, and it's hard to distinguish which is which. So I've been really diving in and really unlearning, and that's been a big process of myself right now. So I'd love to hear what, you know, since March, what have been some big lessons or life shifts that you've really undergone in the past 7 months or so?
I'm glad you brought up belief systems because that's a big thing. So I've actually been diving into shadow work, which
Cool.
like I have a mentor that's helping me out with that, and that is a lot of like questioning your belief systems, digging into your shadows, that shadow self that we all have,
Right.
that is like, you know, just a part of us that we kind of hide, that we don't want to see, our traumas, our
Right.
pain, all of that. That kind of, if, unless you kind of look to it, it's just there following you, and it's just like a lot of extra baggage that we're carrying around.
Right.
So for me, that was probably one of the biggest things, was doing shadow work, because for the first month when I started doing it, it was painful because I was like
Adrian, can
bringing
you
up,
explain what shadow work means to you? Because some people listening may not be familiar what shadow work means. What does it mean to
yeah.
you?
So it's kind of basically, it's from Carl Jung, and it derives from him. It's basically like looking into your dark side. You know, we have a light side, dark side. Dark side is a side of us that we suppress, that we repress, that the world does not see. Whether it's our thoughts, feelings, emotions, our past, our trauma, could be all of that, and it's kind of going into that subconscious part of yourself. And by doing practices, having a guide is like probably the best way to do it. Someone that has been there before and can walk you through it. So that kind of things like that of that nature. So bringing up your suppressed self, I guess. And it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. You have to be, you know, have a lot of courage and be grounded in your reality and what is the truth, what is your truth. So that has been my biggest thing, is like living my own truth and finding and going back. Like you said, mindfulness is about being present, but definitely I did have to dig back deep into the past and things that, you know, it all makes sense now why I used to be the way I was, or how things manifested, or how I was projecting. All these things make sense now to me, like as I'm being present. But I had to go back into the past. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things, was going into that side of myself. Now it's a lot better. I'm still doing it, but it's like a lot. You know, before it was like a lot of, I would wake up with a lot of emotions, a lot of pain, and then kind of like, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why did I sign up for this? And then
Right.
but it, now I'm looking back at it, and it's like, you know, it's beautiful, and I'm learning a lot about self-compassion too,
Mm.
which is a big part of mindfulness. And another practice that I've been doing is with regard to the future. So in meditation, I'll kind of sit with myself and really tend and nurture myself, and kind of be like, if I'm going through things, really be compassionate and just be present with what is, and what
Mm.
emotions, thoughts, feelings arise. And then I envision my future self really like nurturing my present self, being like, wow, I'm so grateful that you did all this work. I'm so grateful that you chose to heal. You chose to go to the dark side and you know, finally suppress, or whatever it is. I'm so grateful that you are choosing to do this, because my future self is going to be grateful for that, because I'm looking back at my past self and I'm like, wow, I'm glad that he did all this stuff, because now I'm in
Mm.
this place.
Wow. I like that a
So
lot.
going, yeah, that's a lot. Like going to the past, present, and future. But I think for me, it's been really, really, really big for me to be able to tap into that future side and then have that compassion, because sometimes it's hard to get it when you're present with whatever is that's going on. I think for me, it's been really important to like go into the future, my future self, which is compassionate, loving, caring, um, and just really nurturing myself.
Wow, I like that a lot. And, it's funny. I've actually never heard quite that approach. So that's a very unique approach that I like a lot. Envisioning your future self and expressing gratitude for your present self for doing the work. That's cool. I'm gonna have to play around with that. Thanks for thanks for giving that opportunity. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, it's definitely an ever evolving journey. And I like what you said there. Is like, I've come a long way and I still got some way to go. And we all do. I think that there tends to be this idea that's been given to us that, when you retire, all your troubles go away, or when you do X, all your troubles go away. And it's just simply not true. And one of my mentors always told me, it was like, look, you're never going to have a life of no problems. You just want to upgrade the quality of your problems. Like I would say, Warren Buffett has money problems. They're just very different than the money problems you and I have. They're on a bigger scale. He's got a lot more, assets, whatever the case may be, but he still has money problems. And those are real money problems to him. And it's easy for people who are not Warren Buffett to say, oh, well, how can this guy possibly have money problems? But it's like, look, as you go up the ladder, you're going to continue to have challenges, and that's okay. And that's actually part of the beautiful part of life, that it would actually be very boring if we got to this point where we had no challenges, no struggle. I mean, every time we exercise, that's a challenge and that's a struggle. Every time that, we have a conversation, that's a challenge, that's a struggle. We're actively working to have a conversation. It's not like it's this just easy thing that, is going to be easy forever. Like I'm going to say things that I may think are true. And then in hindsight, I'll grow more and then kind of realize like, wow, like I don't really believe that anymore. And that's okay. That's a really beautiful part of growth, is the ever evolving. And part of what I was also talking with Zach about earlier is that, really just focusing on the journey. And the journey is really where the magic is, because we can have these goals, but once we reach that goal, we're going to have another goal. And then after we reach that one, there's going to be another one. So, and that's also beautiful. So part of that, I think, like you said, is with looking into the future. I'd love to hear what your, you know, future self looks like. Like, what does your ideal life look like? And, of course, that's going to change and evolve as you grow. But as of right now, what does that ideal life look like? What are you doing for work? And, where are you in the world?
Yeah, and I just really want to touch on like r- really fast about what my mentor said about, kind of similar to yours. I'm like, did they talk? But mine said like in terms of like healing, um, a lot of people in the wellness and spiritual community, they, including myself, I thought that like, you know, where I am now, I'm healed, quote unquote, and I'm like, I'm done with like my whatever I was going through a couple years ago. And she mentioned like we're never really healed. Like you don't ever get to a point where like, okay, I'm done, I'm healed. Like
Right.
here I am. Because as I was doing this work, I'm like, fuck, I'm not healed.
Right.
like still a lot more I need to go through. So she was almost saying the same thing. Like we're never really to a point where it's a journey, and it's an ever evolving journey. Like once you heal from this, you got to heal from other stuff, and then other stuff is gonna happen to you that it's like a never ending journey, and that's honestly awesome, because like if you get to a point where you're like, I'm done, then like what else is there to do?
Right.
Like what else is there?
Exactly.
Not like struggling the whole time, but yeah, like you're like just kind of a journey of figuring things out, finding out who you are. Um, and so talking about my future self, like I I mean I'm attached to this, but I definitely want to move back to LA because I'm out of LA for now. So I want to go back, and there's just like the community out there and just like the space. It really helps me thrive. It's like
Hmm.
a I don't know. I mean you've been there, so want to go back there and kind of like for me as far as my business, I want to take off like my life coaching, and for me it's being able to serve others and to help others in the way like that I've helped people along my past. I mean, and now, so it's just continue to serve at the highest level and continue to have that like be a beacon of hope and light for others and invite others to go on this path that might not necessarily be on it or don't know what it is and all that. So that's, what my future self is like, serving others, and also still doing yoga. And like, I think, that's like a big part of my life. and then just keep on being creative, and
Mm,
collaborating with other creatives and people in this space, such as yourself and all that.
love it. Yeah, I feel that, you know, I've been really coming to the realization lately that the whole idea of survival of the fittest just, I don't think it's quite true for humans. I think it's more of survival of those who collaborate. And it's really, when you really look at history, it's the groups of people that came together and worked together and harnessed all their skills that were the ones that survived. Like, you don't really hear in history about the one person who survived. It's, you hear about the group of people that survived, those who collaborated together, the ones that had the greatest empires, had the greatest countries, the greatest whatever. And I think that that's really important, that I'm recognizing that, of course I could make my dreams happen by myself. Of course I could, be extremely successful financially, help a lot of people all by myself. Of course that's possible. But is that the best way, or would that even be fun and rewarding? Like, and I've really come to the conclusion that I really enjoy, community, and I really enjoy
Mhm.
working and connecting with other people, and, doing calls like this, and just, sharing conversation and learning. Like, I mean, I learned that new tactic from you in this conversation of looking at the future self. Like, there's always something to learn. And I feel that, you know, kind of coming back to that whole journey of never ending, that we're always a student, we're always a teacher. You have things that I don't know, and I have things that you don't know. And, we could look at that as, oh, this person's smarter than me. And something. It's like, no, we have different unique experiences, and we can share those in a best beneficial way. And I think that that's one of my big focuses moving forward is, just collaborating as much as I can. And I think that it's just been really rewarding. And especially during this period of, COVID, being isolated, it's reminded me how important community is, and how, it's great that it's really forced me into the digital world to connect with people in a different way. But now it's kind of coming back to a place like, look, I need to be with people in person too. So
Mhm.
kind of reintegrating a lot of that as well. But just community, whether it's digital or in person, I just think it's essential, and it's really, really vital for everyone's personal and collective growth.
For sure, yeah. And I can see. I mean, me too. I was just thinking that last week. Like, I miss being in front of people and like being in a group setting and doing all that. 'Cause there's not a lot like of that happening like how I used to. So like I really miss that. But then also being grateful for like, now I'm connecting people such as yourself, but like with Zach and other people like. And before for me, I felt kind of lonely in this space because I wasn't really like putting myself out there, and this path, if you're unless you're putting yourself out there and connecting with like-minded people, it is a lonely path.
Mm.
So for me, it was this year was getting out of my shell, putting that energy out there and then receiving it back, and then connecting with people, and then realizing that I'm not alone in this at all. There's a whole world of people that that have similar mission, vision, values as I do. So it's like, oh wow, so now I can connect with you, and then we can talk about it, and we can collaborate, and like that's been a blessing for me, is realizing that I am not alone as in this path, and connecting with other people too. So community is huge for me too.
I love it, man. And it's something that I feel that as things continue to evolve, is that we're just being led to the right people at the right moments. And that's something that, yesterday I had a really, really incredible day where I was able to see a friend's homestead that he's been creating and has created, and built his own tiny home, and just has an abundance of, food that he's grown at his home here in the Boston area. And it was just very inspiring. And he's done that in less than 2 years, and just to see what's possible in a very short amount of time. And then after that, we went to a podcasting booth to, as I talked with you, trying to figure out the next steps for my podcast, and, found like a legitimate podcasting studio with a producer and all type of stuff that I was chatting with. So my buddies and I were going to do a test run next week, which is exciting. See if we can get things rocking and rolling again. So it's been really cool just to, be forced in a sense into thinking differently, and really reevaluating things, and having the opportunity to grow in different areas. And that all comes from different people. Like, all these things are by connecting with other people. So I want to express my gratitude, for you, for creating this space and really engaging in, reaching out and saying that you want to do this.
Yeah,
Because I think that
definitely.
people listening to this will really have some value. So I'd love for you to share, any take home points that you'd love to leave with the listeners and what they can do right now to finish the rest of this year strong. And, regardless of what happens with, who's the new president in January, what can we do in an uncertain world to stay grounded and continue to evolve and grow ourselves?
Like the biggest thing that I've learned in like all my teachings and all that is just simple, just breathing. Like just breathe. Because even like when if you get like know to consciously breathe when those unconscious moments, that's going to be the biggest game changer where your reaction, your anxiety, your anger, your fear, your doubts, all of that can just diminish if you anchor through your breath. And that's going to change your world. So really just remind yourself to use your breath as a bridge to your mind and your body.
I love it. Couldn't have said it better. So, Adrian, where can people find you to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
I'm on Instagram mostly and Facebook too, but Adrian Lozano on Facebook or on Instagram, lozano.flows.
Perfect. Well, everyone listening, thank you for being here. I'm going to put the link to Adrian's profile in the description box. If you didn't catch that, you can just link right to there. So, Adrian, thank you for being here. Thank you for connecting and sharing. And have a beautiful day, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Likewise, brother. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Peace.